Third is Suarez. Goodell comes running in. He's under it, makes the catch. Here's the throw to the plate. It's in the air. He is out! Cameron Rick hangs on! Oh, man, what a play! Deep to right field. Way up there and way out! Second
And welcome back to the Stupid Money Podcast. And this is I guess the perfect timing for the 100th episode, considering there's a lot of good things to talk about. The Phillies are up 8-1 right now in the seventh, which if they hold, the seventh ended. If they hold on to that, they would be 26-11, the best record in the MLB. I'm pretty sure the last time we spoke was right around the White Sox series. So since that's happened, a lot's happened. Outside of splitting with Cincinnati, which was a 4-game series, they've just been running over teams. What has been the one thing that there's a lot of things, but to you, what's sticking out? Because there's a lot to go over here.
I think for me, the biggest thing that sticks out is definitely the pitching. You know, the offense has been really good lately, especially the homestand, but the pitching has really been carrying them. I know Wheeler's down to sub 1.6, Turnbull's out of the rotation now, and he was sub 1.7, sub 1.6, something crazy like that.
Mm-hmm.
Suarez was on another world in the month of April, NL Pitcher of the Month, which is crazy when we just said that Wheeler was sub 1.6 right now.
Yeah, he hasn't lost yet, so
Noah had one or two like bad starts, and
the first one was bad, but yeah,
he's still like a sub 3 pitcher. You know, Wheeler and Noah got screwed up a little bit when Walker came back and they had that extra day of rest, which we kind of talked about last episode. I know it was a while ago, but we all, you know, everybody who kind of follows the team understands that both of those guys said that they don't really love the extra day of rest because it gets them out of the rhythm. So, you know, when they pick up, there's 5 of 1 run, which is like absurd to think that that's the dude's, you know, bad start. But I didn't really chalk it up to anything just because, you know, we all kind of knew going into it that he was off his normal routine. So yeah, the pitching's been really incredible to watch. It seems like even if the offense might struggle for, you know, they faced Mason Block the other day and it was his debut, so they didn't really see anything on him. So, you know, it took him 1 or 2 times through the lineup. And yeah, here's on the Giants are going to score off him. So, you know, don't take 8 innings, but, you know, you can go through the lineup once and not feel like you're in a hole. Whereas last year it felt like we couldn't really get out to an early lead. And then when we did finally score last year, the shutdown inning was impossible to come by. Whereas this year they're scoring early, the pitchers are holding them. And then, you know, the shutdown innings, like tonight, Harper hits the grand slam and all of a sudden Christopher Sanchez goes out and throws a 5-pitch inning. And all of a sudden the bats are back in. I don't think they scored after they came back in to hit, but at the same time, a 5-pitch inning after Barrios had to work his ass off just to give up 8 runs is still extremely demoralizing to the Blue Jays.
Yeah, and the 2 things you mentioned have kind of been the biggest difference. The shutdown inning, I know last year that's something we talked about a lot. It seems like every time they scored 3, they came back and gave up 2 right away, and they've been avoiding that, which I think has really helped. Not just the record, obviously, but I think the confidence on both sides of the ball, because the offense kind of puts up their big number. And yeah, you always like to add on, but then they're not pressing themselves like, oh, we always have to score, you know, 8 to 10 every game. Maybe we're good with 4 to 5, but I think that's been a big thing. And obviously when you get out to big leads, it's a lot easier to pitch. So kind of both sides of the ball there has really helped each other. Alec Boehm has, I hope he's not hurt. We got to get into Trea Turner a little bit, but what we've seen from him, outstanding. Before yesterday, he went 0 for 4, but before that, he was second in the majors in average on base percentage, doubles, and RBIs, which, I mean, we're what, 30, 36, 37 games in. Like, that's not
Hmm.
it's obviously not a huge sample size, but it's not also an anomaly
A
at that
quarter,
point. Yeah,
a quarter of the
it's
season.
yeah, it's a big enough sample size that you pay attention to it, I guess the best way to put it. Obviously, I think he was second in every category to a Dodger, whether it was Betts or Ohtani, which was funny. But he's really just picked it up, and obviously, past recency bias here a little bit, but Harper, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs the last 3 games, and it's coincided right as Trea Turner, unfortunately, out for 6 weeks, which we'll get into that in a little bit, but just him getting hot right now has helped. Castellanos, it's still not great, but he hasn't been a total zero, which I think helps. I obviously hit the really clutch home run in Anaheim, and then Johan Rojas has kind of fallen off a little bit again, but he's like still having his moments. Obviously, the home run in Anaheim as well was just crazy because I was screaming for him to get pinch hit there, and he hit that, which was wild. But it's kind of a little bit of everybody. Like Stott had the 2 home run game in San Diego. Marsh's cooled off a little bit, but he carried them so early that you kind of give him a pass for a little bit. Obviously, eventually, you'd like to see him pick it back up, but he was their kind of catalyst the first 2.5 weeks this season. So you cut him a little slack, but it's a little bit of everybody. Schwarber's hitting home runs, but he's also, I think, on pace to break the strikeout record. So that's
Yeah, by a good margin too, I think.
yeah, he's on pace for almost 300, I think, like
Something
270.
like that. It's
It's
a crazy number. I think another thing, and kind of talking about how guys are starting to get going, but we're seeing we were really excited when they signed Merrifield, and
mhm.
the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season were really tough for him, and I know a lot of people were very upset about, oh, we paid 8 million for this guy. This is a guy everyone was so excited about. The guy's
Mhm.
played 162 games pretty much every season for his entire career, and now it's like, hey, dude, play once a week, maybe twice, and produce. So, I definitely was annoyed just because you watch the games, and while it's a 162 game season, you don't always think in the long term, and how the past tendencies for guys kind of affects what their season outlook looks like. And right now he's on an 8 game hitting streak. He, with Turner being out now for 6 weeks, he's going to be asked to do a lot more as far as playing every day. And I think him starting to hit now kind of reminds us of why we signed them. Last year our bench guys were Sosa, who's going to be asked to play a lot more with Turner out, but then like guys like Jake Cave and Christian Pache, who are fine, but we always talk about those bench guys playing every day and getting overexposed when they have to play 4 times a week. Merrifield's able to slide into that spot when JT's a day off. I think that's one of the guys that you can really trust with Turner out and JT not being able to play every day just because of the amount of innings that he's logged, 1 already this season, but 2 over the last 3 seasons between deep playoff runs and the World Baseball Classic. So like Merrifield's starting to hit, and he gives you that versatility to kind of mix and match the lineup and put him at the top of the lineup if injuries happen, like Turner being out for a
Yeah.
month and a half. He's a guy that's comfortable up there, and he's done it his entire career.
Yeah, and to kind of add on to the bench thing, Cody Clemens has 2 starts this year, and he has 2 home runs and 6 RBIs in those games.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
crazy.
we
If he
lost
was a
we lost
righty,
the main
man,
con and Beerling trade.
yeah, I mean, yeah, whatever. I'm done with people getting mad about that trade. Great trade. If he was a righty, he would have made this roster out of camp, which
Yeah,
it sucks,
oh
but
for
it is what
sure.
it is what it is. Yeah, but
Also, it's funny that they're playing him at third base. He has like 25 career games at third base, and they were like 5 years ago.
yeah, I mean, well, Topper just doesn't care. Remember the whole Verling at second base thing for a little bit?
Yeah,
Yeah, he doesn't care.
So stupid.
But yeah, Merrifield, they need him to hit, especially because the problem is the righties are kind of an issue with Turner out. And we're worried about Bohm a little bit, if this hip thing is a thing or not. He's out tonight. We'll see tomorrow. It's a day game. Um, we know what Castellanos is, and Realmuto's a catcher, so you can't rely on him every single day because he sat tonight. He'll play tomorrow, but they already pushed him the way it is, and kind of the last few seasons he's kind of fallen off maybe towards the end a little bit. So having another righty is really important. The thing is, like a 6-week injury is a really annoying time frame because it's long enough where it like hurts what you want to do. Like you need kind of a long-term fill-in where now like Stott has to play a lot of shortstop probably, but it's not long enough for you go out and find an external replacement. Like he's coming back. It's early in the season, so you don't go trade for anybody or anything like that. So it's that kind of that in between where you just need to rely on your guys and hope that 6 weeks isn't too long. We'll see. Hopefully, he's ahead of that. I thought it was very weird that it went from a couple days to 6 weeks. I don't know if that's concerning or maybe they're being on the cautious side and he could be back in 4 to 5. We'll see, but it's an annoying time frame because it's long enough to bother you, but not too long where you go out and have to like do something about it.
Yeah, and I think a a bigger part of it that's annoying as far as not in terms of making moves, but like last year, obviously the Turner signing didn't really go the way that we hoped it would be for the first 4.5 months of the season, and this year the first week or two was pretty bad again. Everyone's like, oh God, maybe this guy just sucks here forever. But then the last 4.5 weeks, he was on a tear, and he was hitting goals, hitting homers. I think he had 2 or 3 before he got hurt, but he was running. The play that he got hurt on, he stole home a walk pass ball. Like you were really starting to see what Trea Turner kind of brings to the table and why he got all that money offered. And all of a sudden the hamstring injury kind of derails that. So hopefully, obviously with a 6-week injury like that, there's going to be rehab starts involved, but hopefully he could kind of pick up where he left off before the injury because, I know you and I watch a lot of baseball outside of the Phillies, but some people who didn't necessarily see what Trea Turner was doing while he was in Los Angeles and towards the end of his tenure in Washington, like the guy is worth every penny that he got from us, whether he, didn't show it the entire season last year. Like he's that good, and we saw it for the majority of April before the injury kind of ruined that.
Yeah, and I hope that this injury doesn't dial back how aggressive he was being running because it was something we honestly didn't see last year that much, but he looks so much more comfortable stealing and trying to steal this season. As I try to look up the stolen base thing on the fly, there it is. Yeah, so he still leads the team with 10. So I mean, he was on pace for over 40 stolen bases, which I think would have been his most since his Washington days. I know he didn't steal that much in LA. Yeah, it would have been actually the most since 2018 when he had 43. So,
and if you kind of think about it too, he had that perfect stolen base season last year. I think he was 31 for 31, and
yeah,
this year he has 10. The streak ended at like 41 or whatever, 41 consecutive. But the one that it ended on was like a bullshit double steal.
It's like a pickoff more than it's
the guy got the guy on second got caught in the run. Like it was the designed play, and Turner was on third and got picked off. So like realistically, he still hasn't been caught stealing in our uniform. The streak's not intact anymore, but if you watch that play, the streak's still intact, and it's just dumb. So like, yeah, the guy is electric when he's healthy and going right. So yeah, hopefully the injury doesn't kind of revert him back to what we saw from April to July last year.
Yeah. And in his absence now, they were obviously scoring with him, and they've honestly been scoring without him. I mean, I think they just scored again, actually, but it kind of comes on everyone else to get aggressive now, too, on the base pass. Obviously, Stott's been an efficient base stealer, but now Marsh, you want him to get into it. If Sosa and Merrifield are going to play more, you want them to get into it. Harper is not someone I really want stealing bases anymore. The injury thing, Rojas starts stealing more when you get on because we know you don't hit a lot of extra base hits. So when you get those infield singles or the off chance you walk, make that a double, get in scoring position. Real Muto, another guy, just because of how important he is, I don't want him stealing too much, but also he can run, so get in when you can. But I just, it kind of comes on everyone else to kind of pick up that speed slack and take the extra base to get into scoring position. Because they love to rely on the home run, and they have the past couple days because Harper has hit 3, and they have not been solo shots. It's 3 home runs with 10 RBIs, not the Schwarber special from a couple of years ago where everything was a solo shot. So that's fun right now, but as we know from the playoffs, it's not always sustainable. So it's kind of on.
I'll call myself out because I know it seems like months ago, but the last episode that we did, I was talking about how they can't really construct the lineup or their philosophy to just model after the Diamondbacks last year in the playoffs just because they beat them. And then in that White Sox series, granted, it was the White Sox, not like a juggernaut by any means, but they did a lot to manufacture runs. The one game, there were 2 hit and runs in the same inning that resulted in 2 runs. Thompson's doing a lot. Turner had a delayed steal the other day, which, you can't really say they built that in the philosophy because I don't really think anybody does that successfully other than Trea Turner on this roster, maybe JT, but they're doing things to manufacture runs in games where they're not hitting home runs. They've tried that Little League double steal multiple times in games. It's worked the majority of the time. That one time when Turner got picked off was the only time that I can remember feeling that start to put that in a scouting report saying that, if guys are on the corners, the Phillies will try and do this to manufacture runs. That's fine. But, they're showing that they have those kind of things in their arsenal. And, worst case, if the team just kind of ignores the runner, then you have 2 guys in scoring position and, all it takes is a hit. The runners in scoring position numbers aren't great outside of Bohm again this year, but they're definitely better than they were last year. So, they're doing things to manufacture runs outside of hitting home runs.
Yeah, and that has been the biggest change, which is nice. So it looks like it's 10-1 in the bottom of the 8th. They're most likely going to win this game and get to 26-11. So kind of just to close this out, obviously we'll do the look ahead of the schedule, but I know this is something that is more of a thing for the playoffs, but I want to start to talk about the circle of trust with the bullpen, because to me right now it's 4 guys. And then there's like 2 guys I'm iffy on. And then after that, it's kind of finding the 7th guy, which I guess right now is Turnbull. But
I think we have the same 4.
Yeah, like it's Hoffman, Alvarado, Strom, and Kerkering for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like Soto and Dominguez are just so hit or miss. It's either
I don't trust Dominguez at all right now.
No, he kind of single-handedly lost the game. Otherwise, I think they'd be on like a 12-game win streak if they didn't lose that Anaheim game. Just really bad. He kind of blew up one of those Reds games too. But it's a confidence thing with him because the stuff Ricky Pitalico, who obviously knows a lot more than us, said it looks like a confidence thing, that the stuff hasn't looked much different. Soto, I know what that is. One blow up Dominguez from being on a 12-game win streak. Well, Soto is a foot from blowing a save too in Anaheim. But the 2 of them are just the stuff is there. They're just heart attacks. If they can harness it in, I think Soto has options, but I don't think they'll option him. Dominguez does not, which is kind of the issue right now. But Marte went on the IL, so I don't think they would do that right now anyway. So yeah, those are two guys that if they could get those two going, and all of a sudden it's three lefties and three righties that you have, we know the stuff is there with all six of them, but if you get all six of them clicking, I think you'd still like to add another righty to that bullpen at the deadline. I'm not saying it has to be a closer, just someone you trust in a seventh or eighth inning. But if you could just get those two going with the way, I know Alvarado's been like a little shaky, hasn't been perfect. His ERA is still through the roof from that Brave series because he gave up 5 runs with no outs. So it's a little misleading. But I mean, Hoffman, Kirkering, and Strom, I think are all like 1.3 ERAs right now. Like just insane. So love the 4 of them. But if you could just get those other 2 guys going, and then, Turnbull, probably the best long man in baseball right now. So that's kind of where I'm at with those guys. I know you're probably close to what I'm feeling, but I just feel like if you get the 2 of them, this team, get the 2 of those guys clicking, this team really has no holes, because now all of a sudden middle relief goes from a question mark to a strength.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely the same in the circle of trust with, the 4 big guys at the back end. Yeah, Soto's just so interesting to me because rarely do you see relievers come in with such an emphasis on the running game, because every pitch from him when a guy gets on a slide step, and I think that just, a lot of his wild or erratic spurts result from him bouncing pitches, and that kind of stems from when he gets in the slide step, you're trying to be so quick to the plate and your arm moves faster than you want it to be, and you just end up holding on to the ball and yanking it. So I don't know, I'd be curious, because we kind of saw that when we got Alvarado too, and a lot of the cutters and the sliders that he was throwing were bouncing. Like you said, I don't think they'd option him, but I'd be really curious to see how Soto would kind of benefit from boot camp they kind of put Alvarado through 2 years ago when they sent him down, and he just came back as the best reliever in baseball for the rest of that season, really, until the Alvarez home run. But they have very similar pitch profiles as far as what they throw. Soto's a lot more slider heavy than cutter heavy, like Alvarado. I don't think they do it, but I'd just be curious to see how it would look if Cotham worked with him, not only on pitching profile and how they want to attack guys, but so if they kind of just don't worry about runners, if they get on and just, go with your normal leg lift instead of slide step. I don't know if that would help improve the control at all, because some days he comes in and he's firing, either down the middle or on the corners, and he looks really good. And then the next 2 games, it'll be sporadic. You don't know where the hell the ball is going. And it's kind of a batter-to-batter basis on what you're going to get with them. Sir Anthony, I don't know. It's tough because, we saw what he can do against good hitters when they made the World Series run. And they were just kind of using him and Alvarado to, I think about the Cardinals series specifically with him, where it's like, hey, you're going to get Arenado and Goldschmidt every time they come up, no matter what the spot is. And he dominated them for those 2 games. It wasn't even a contest. Arenado looked awful. Goldschmidt did not look good. And I feel like since that series, but that run, but mostly that series, we haven't really gotten that version of him. And the stuff doesn't look too different. The velocity might be down a little bit, but it's just, it's all a confidence thing with him, kind of focusing on mechanics. And I don't know what the fix is there, because it has to be mutual to send him down, which I don't think he'd do. I mean, if I were him, I wouldn't do that. But it's tough. They're doing the right thing and letting him. It's tough because Turnbull obviously in the 7th, 8th night, so they're not going to put him in a game like this. But I think they had him pitch in the 14-3 game over the weekend against the Giants. So they're putting him in and kind of for lack of a better term, Sir Anthony proof games right now where they can get him out of there before he blows a 10-run lead or a 5-run lead. If he gives up a run or two, so what? It's not the end of the world if they're trying to work through things. But yeah, right now, if he comes in any game where it warrants the potential for a save situation, I would not particularly be happy with where he's at right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And because, like you said, he's not probably going to agree to being sent down, they kind of have to do it in blowout games. Like that kind of has to be the learning uh, experience. Like when the game is already decided one way or the other, you kind of, you're kind of practicing in the majors, I guess, so to say, is the best way to put it. So I think if they're gonna work through this, that's the way it's gonna have to be done. I haven't looked to see if Turnbull went back out for the ninth, or if now that it's 10-1, they decide on maybe going that route. But yeah, I think that's the only way that's going to get done. The funny thing is with Soto, and it's the same way it kind of was last year. His ERA is really bad, but it's because he has the one outing where he gives up like 5 or 6 runs and he only gets an out or two. But then like his next 10, he gives up 1 run. But then there's the one again where he gives up 4, and it's just the way he is. His ERA or his WHIP is insanely high at 1.94. He's always been a guy that struggles with the command thing. I don't know if they're ever going to get that in, but I don't know if you just kind of put up with it. Like, do you think the one time it's going to absolutely kill you for the other 7 or 8 that are going to go perfect? I just think that it kind of is what it is at this point. And the ERA might look really bad at the end of the year, but he's actually not that bad, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's just the kind of pitcher that he is,
Yeah.
with how sporadic you're going to have to live and deal with the bad starts and the bad whips and stuff, but he'll give you good outings here and there.
Yeah. All right. So I don't hope this isn't a jinx. It's 10-1. I'm going to say they win tonight. So they'll be 26-11. Tomorrow, last game of this Toronto series, because they always do 2-2 with Toronto, I think, home and home.
Yeah.
It's Chris Bassett against Nola. Bassett's ERA is really high, actually, which is surprising. 5.45. So if they could get that tomorrow, they then go to Miami, who I've never seen a team trade off their best player this early in a season, I don't think. Ridiculous. So they go to Miami. Then they have that kind of home and home with the Mets, which makes up for the London series. So it's 2 there, then 2 here. And then they get Washington next weekend at home, who somehow is a playoff team right now. I think they're 17-17, something 17-18, something like that. Off day, Texas. So the funny thing is, Texas is good, obviously. They're kind of lingering on 500, and there's a chance they go back under. They were only a game or 2 over. I think 3 games over now.
They
won today. Yeah, so I think they're 3 over. So there's a pretty good chance they're over 500. But if they scuffle the next week and they go back under, there's a chance
they're 5 over.
Oh, they're 5. Okay, they're good then. It's not going to happen. Yeah. I was going to say there's a chance they don't face a team over 500 until June 3rd when they play Milwaukee. But I think Texas will be over 500, and then they get a really favorable road trip. I know they don't play well at these 2 places necessarily, but they just smoked Colorado and San Francisco, and they get them as a road trip, which I think they'll like. And then it's that's the end of the month. Then you get St. Louis at home, which they always play well against. So the next month is still really favorable. And as we've mentioned, they got to rack up these wins, because if you look after the All-Star break, man, it's a lot of Cleveland's, Yankees, LA's, Seattle's, Braves. So got to rack them up now. And even without Trea Turner, the way they're hitting right now, especially Bryce Harper and Bowman, hopefully this does not turn into an IL stint. But they have a chance to really rack up some wins here early, and I would not be surprised if they're at 50 by the end of June. Like that'd be
fun.
Yeah, they have a really good opportunity to get there.
Yeah, I mean, kind of looking at the schedule, June's a pretty favorable month too. Obviously, Milwaukee's solid. Baltimore's very good.
Yeah.
Detroit has a good start. Whether or not that'll last yet to be determined. But Arizona, I think with how last season ended, I don't think the record will really matter. I think that series has the Hamels retirement night somewhere in there. So
Yeah, I think it's the
that'll
Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll just be a big series in general as far as, atmosphere down there. So
Mhm.
yeah, June's a pretty good month in terms of favorable schedule. And we talked about that at the beginning of the season. You look at the schedule on paper, but until April and May are done, you don't really know what your schedule looks like because
Right.
so many things can happen. The Marlins trading Arias before the end of April. It's teams change like crazy. So yeah,
Yeah.
you never know. Definitely a favorable schedule moving forward though.
Yeah, and just close this out. I'm so sick of people talking about the Phillies schedule and how these teams look in April and May. Obviously, we know the Phillies the last 2 years were really bad in April and May, and then they went to Game
Mm-hmm.
6 of the World Series and Game 7 of the NLCS. The year the Nationals won the World Series, I think they were like 14 under in May
Braves
and won
were
the
8
World.
or 9 under in
Right,
May.
the year they won. So I'm just saying, like, it does not matter right now. These teams could be
No.
good. You just don't know. You don't know what's going on. So, get over that. But yeah, I couldn't think of a better time to have episode 100. Phillies are very hot. We'll see. Keep it going. Just really hoping Trea is the only injury right now, and that they find a way to fill that in. But this team's deeper than in years past. The way Cody Cummins is playing with, so it's a lot to be excited about, and we'll hope they keep it up for a while here. If not, through October would be nice, but we'll see you
That's
next
for
time.
sure.